going on, guys? Welcome into another edition of, it's a Nebraska Postgame Live. I'm waiting to see if Brian's going to join me here. Brian's got work today, so he should be popping on here before too long. I think he said he's going to be off around now. So, but Nebraska comes out with the victory. Of course, didn't drop 60. I was kind of upset about that. I don't know about y'all, but I was upset that we didn't punch it in there at the end, but beggars can't be choosers. What's going on, Ron T? Appreciate you hopping in here. Pit Snipe, what's going on? Go Big Red, appreciate you hopping in here as well. Let's just go ahead and dive, I guess, into the game a little bit. And then I'm also going to look forward a little bit to what Michigan's got going on. Michigan today doing a much better job of using Bryce Underwood's legs. So that is something that, we had Coach Michael Rose-Ivy on this week. And one of the things that he did mention was, the fact that he was worried about the potential that Michigan would start running the ball against Nebraska, all of the sudden, but it seems like they've made that move this week. So it'll be interesting to look through the Central Michigan film. Central Michigan, much better than Houston Christian. Houston Christian from the Southland Conference. Southland Conference is actually where my alma mater is, the conference my alma mater is in. That was after the military, Lamar University. So be interesting to see how they hold up in that conference. A little bit of extra there. But Houston Christian, as Michael Rose-Ivy also mentioned, was a very good, what's the word I'm looking for? I guess pre-test. I don't want to say test. He was talking about how the zone run scheme that I talked about before that Cincinnati really had success with against Nebraska, Houston Christian kind of runs a very, 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 very light version of that, albeit without a mobile quarterback. And so it was a good opportunity to see some of those zone blocking schemes in preparation for the Michigan game. But we're going to take you through it all here today. So again, like I said, Nebraska coming through, not getting the shutout, 59-7. I think I predicted 62-0, so I was close. But again, just left some points there at the goal line a couple times. So let me just go through the stats real quick, and then we'll kind of see where everything, everybody getting ample playing time. Coming in, let me see here. Sorry about that. I don't know why this went away for a second. All right, so I guess ESPN's so late with their numbers, man. Do y'all know what's going on with ESPN lately? I don't know what it is about their Nebraska numbers, but they're adding them in super late. Even whenever the quarterback numbers were input and people were posting quarterback stats last week, they were all in but Raiola's, which made absolutely zero sense to me. So I'm going to try to find some actual numbers since ESPN can't get their stuff together here. So, but let me see. All right, let's see. All right, so Nebraska 46.5 spread, by the way. Nebraska covers spread. Good teams win, great teams cover. So looking over, let me go to the box score here. I finally found some stats. So Nebraska 30 first downs to 11 for Houston Christian, 16 passing first downs. One thing to note, Houston Christian, 2 of their first downs were via penalty. 2 of them were via passing, 7 being at Russia. You saw some of those short yard rushes there, got there late against second and third string. Third down efficiency, this is where Nebraska's really kind of, earning their medal. They're staying out of third down in a lot of situations. 5 for 9 on third down efficiency, but when they are there, they're converting. Fourth down efficiency, 1 for 2. Houston Christian, of course, 2 for 2. But fumbles, Houston Christian 4. They lost 2. 9 penalties for 70 yards, 4 penalties for 45 yards for Nebraska. And Nebraska's been staying in that 3 to 4 penalty mark. Again, nothing too crazy today. The timing of the penalty, the situation of the penalty is important. Nothing too incidental today in keeping Nebraska points off the board for Nebraska. Average yards per play, Houston Christian comes out with 3, Nebraska with 8.3. 67 plays total for Nebraska, so under the 70, but 618 total team yards, 200 total team yards for Houston Christian. So 53 plays. I think they held Cincinnati. Cincinnati wanted to be in that 70-ish play number as well, but they held them in the 50s. Houston Christian, they held them in the 50s. Now Houston Christian probably want to slow it down a little bit more than they would have. But looking at the TFL sacks, just kind of the overall disruption numbers, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumbles recovers, 2 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 34 solo tackles, 56 total tackles. So looking at the overall punt return, kick return stats, one of the biggest things that I'm seeing is just a commitment to so what I'm looking for. I'm seeing more commitment to effort on the smallest of details. And I think that's the difference in what I'm seeing this year versus last year. So much as this, this second, third string offense, defense coming in. And you have, let's talk about the special teams. Just breaking it down to the execution on the special teams. When we're talking about just what the special teams runs in terms of punt return, kick return, you notice a variation, and what that's something we haven't seen before. We started to see the same kind of punt return safe variation, kick return safe variation, where everything was just very safe. Now you see a combination. We're bringing heat. Not only we're bringing heat, but we're also then tucking it back into return. But we're switching things up, and I think the biggest thing with special teams too that people don't understand is if you do the same thing over and over and over and over and over, then you don't have to worry. The teams don't have to worry about your special teams. But now Nebraska's mixing up a little bit. They're bringing pressure sometimes, and it's not always dictated by the situation, right? If they're expecting pressure, sometimes we get back in return. If they're not expecting pressure, sometimes we bring heat. And that's causing, last week that caused a punt issue just because we didn't get our hands on the ball, but we knocked the one of the men back to block into the punter space, and that allowed him to not be able to get the punt off cleanly. So even so much as just getting back there and disrupting that, it's those little details that, that's probably 25 yards, 30 yards off that punt that he shanks. And those are hidden yards that Nebraska is getting in there. So there's just hidden details. And then certain things too, I get it is Houston Christian. And one of the biggest things that, I tweeted earlier about, Nebraska's execution being what it is and this being a beautiful thing to see. And somebody's like, yeah, I understand, but it's Houston Christian. And I get that. But to an extent, like, we control what we can control, right? And like I talked about last week, this is how you're supposed to beat this team, right? The 7 points that they scored was against our third string on a play that was bottled up, broken down, broke the opposite direction. Now, in a play like that, saw somebody kind of posting, what's going to happen when we face a legitimate running team, a legitimate running back, and we go against that. Well, again, second and third strings out there. But not only that, you're going to be a little bit more aggressive in your pursuit when you're up 40 points, when you're up 50 points. You can get away with a little bit more. Don't expect the defense to be over pursuing and leaving the backside of that field open to cutbacks. Don't anticipate that happening against, they're going to be a lot more fundamentally sound. But again, you get the second, third string out there, and they start to, kind of lose some of those, lose some of those assignments, get a little over pursuit, get a little happy trying to get out there and make a play. So that's part of it. Latif looking good. Latif looking great. No block, no rock. Shout out to those guys. They posted earlier. It's just kind of TJ Latif just looks. Why does he look so good back there? And it's just composure. It's he's calm. His feet are very calm. And he's reading things. When we talk about that run, kind of there down in the red zone there where he ran in for that touchdown. I want you to watch that play because you see him sit there and his feet not super choppy, right? He's sitting there, but he's going. You see his eyes and he's going through his progression. Boom, not there. Boom, not there. Okay, eyes down. What do I have available to me in terms of the green grass? And then he sees that and he takes it. And there's no hesitation, right? And I think that's the biggest thing is like you get a lot of these young players out there. They come out in the first little bit. They're a little hesitant, right? They're like, I feel like I maybe need to make a throw. Maybe I shouldn't bail from the pocket too soon. Like they're just thinking a little bit too much. And I think that not only goes to show the preparation of the coaching staff for this team, but I think that goes to show TJ Latif's preparation in himself because the coaching staff can set you up for that, but only you can sit there and know what on each play. You are the one that's in there. It's in your mind. You're the ones in there reading everything. So he has to know on each play the timing. Okay, I need to be here. I need to be here. I need to understand what the defense is doing, and I need to make a decision. And it's the quick decision making right now. It's the decisiveness that I think is setting TJ Lateef apart from the rest. In terms of those other quarterbacks. And I think that's what's been impressive is just his calmness, his composure. He's methodical in the pocket, and he's just mature beyond his years back there. And I think that's one of the biggest things that stands out the most. When I did TJ Lateef's film breakdown when he first committed, one of the things I mentioned was just his incredible touch on his passes. He made a throw on an out route rolling to his right. That was just insane. He can throw it across the field. And now he's put a lot more size in that frame, and his arm strength has increased significantly. And we saw some of that element today in that deep pass over the middle of the field. So was able to get out there and let loose a little bit. So it was good to see that deep pass get out there. I think if we can make it where Bryce Underwood has to throw the ball, we have a great chance of winning. I agree. Because our coverage has been our strength this season. Cincinnati, again, where we got lost with Cincinnati was the zone blocking. If we can control Michigan's run game, then we're fine. It's going to be one of those situations where it's Nebraska has the film on Cincinnati. They have the film, and now they have the film on Bryce Underwood running the ball a little bit. And looking at overall, let me go look at the Michigan versus Central Michigan final numbers here. So I can kind of give you an idea. So 63-3, Michigan ended up winning that game. Now, albeit Central Michigan, I will say this, Central Michigan is under a first-year head coach, right? They're under a first-year offensive coordinator, first-year defensive coordinator, right? That is a team that is 1-2, and they're just kind of starting a new tenure. So not a very good team, not a very good team. But again, they did with the 63-3. They go in there and handle business. Bryce Underwood comes out 16 of 25, 235 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Rushing wise, Bryce Underwood, 9 carries, 114 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Okay. While I do think that Bryce Underwood's going to try to pass to as much as he can, more so than drawing a blank, Cincinnati quarterback name. I don't know why. Sorsby. Sorsby is not as good of a passer as Underwood, so he's going to bail from the pocket quicker. The thing about Michigan that is going to be the biggest thing is containing. We have to contain. We have to stay in our lanes, and we have to run fit. I was talking about it going into the Cincinnati game. One of the biggest things that we need from our man and our match coverage, is we need our safeties to be able to come down and run fit. And in Cincinnati, they were kind of running our receivers out a little bit, putting our defensive backs deep so that way when they had to come down and run fit, the opportunities weren't there. But also, one of the biggest things that I think Nebraska's going to take away from that Cincinnati game and push towards this Michigan game is you just got to be aggressive. They're going to punish lateral movement on zone blocking. If you move laterally slowly and you don't attack, you're going to get punished. And then they're going to be able to then counter that with something where they're going to punish you for attacking. And that's what Cincinnati did. They did that kind of back and forth, counter back and forth. So the biggest thing is going to be making sure everybody does their job. If everybody can do their job, and right now with how sticky Nebraska's man coverage has been, with how good Nebraska's coverage has been, that is going to lend them very well in terms of now Michigan, of course, has much better athletes. No knock there. But I still think Nebraska might be favored coming into this game. And I think with the growth over the last 2 weeks, I think I see a lot of things that Nebraska can do to really counter out Bryce Underwood. At the end of the day, Bryce Underwood is 18 years old. Jerome Moore's not going to be coaching that game, and we need to make him look 18. Worried about Michigan running quarterback, yeah. Thing was, too, I've been talking about it for 3 weeks, and I was like, he hasn't been running yet, but he can. Georgia Tech gets the dub. Clemson falls to 1-2. I think I was talking about that week 1. I never understood. I don't know about y'all. Do y'all understand the hype around Clemson? Because I don't. I don't think Cade Klubnik is that good. I didn't understand why people were so heavy picking them for the national championship. I think me and Brian talked about it week 1 when they're playing LSU. We didn't think they were as good as everybody claimed they were. And I think the fact that Georgia Tech come out and beat Clemson, that's actually kind of crazy. I thought Clemson wasn't a national championship contender. I thought maybe they were top 10 teams still, but that's crazy. Losing Georgia Tech's crazy. We're seeing more effort on special teams, and it doesn't look like a clusterfuck every time. They look competent. Exactly. There's people doing their job on special teams, whereas before it looked like we were going through the motions, But again, it was like the special teams were. I think this is the biggest thing is I think the special teams were treated as an afterthought, right? No special teams coach. What do you think is going to happen, right? If the special teams are treated as an afterthought, they're going to play like that. And now I think you bring Eckler in and you bring a guy in that you pay big money and you say, hey, this unit is just as important as the other 2 units. Fix this. And now you have people out there. You have a coach out there who's identifying talent to play specifically for special teams. So starters, backups, doesn't matter. It's not just a bunch of backups running out there. They're getting the best players on the field, best talent-wise, and it's all it is just an effort and commitment to actually just paying attention to special teams and treating it as if it's its own unit, as treating it as an important part of the game, which it is. Our punter hasn't punted in 2 weeks. Exactly. Archie Wilson kind of got the easiest job in football right now. I'm sure he'd love to punt, but it's a good problem to have. Bone that corn fed is high right now, apparently. So TJ looks so confident. Love it. Yep. TJ's acceleration when he tucks it is no joke either. He's quick. He can move. He can move very, very well. But I think the biggest thing is he's such a decisive runner. But he's pass first. In his high school film, he's pocket guy. And I think that's the biggest thing that we want is a guy who's going to stand in the pocket, but has that element. And Dylan Raiola, we've seen him run a little bit more, but again, you see the difference in a guy like Latif and a guy like Raiola. Now, don't get it twisted. Raiola's arm is still better. But, I mean, also, TJ Latif is younger, but lower rated. But, TJ Latif's going to be stuck. I agree, Jay. Clemson has a lot of question marks. We see how that's playing out. 100% here. Let me see if I can find some of the individual stats. I want to go through the individual stats. Shout out Dane Key, by the way. I'm glad he's stepping up after I've been preaching his name all offseason. And then also shout out to Quinn Ives. So looking at our rushing numbers here, going by overall yards, Quentin Ives, 12 attempts for 85 yards. We have Emmett Johnson with 13 carries for 78 yards, along with 17. 2 touchdowns, though. 2 touchdowns for Emmett, 1 for Ives, 1 for Latif. Latif ended up with three attempts for 15 yards. Kenneth Williams, 7 yards on 4 carries. So looking at Dylan Raiola, 15 for 21, had 2 drops, I believe. I think it was just a 2, if I'm not mistaken. 222 yards, 2 touchdowns. Latif coming in 5 for 5, 126, 1 touchdown. And then Jalen Gramstad 3 for 3 with 14 yards. Looking at the receiving, Dan Key with those 4 big receptions early, 104 yards, 1 touchdown, with that 40-yard touchdown being the long. Ja'Cory Barney, 3 catches for 22 yards. Lyndon Meyer, 1 catch for 9 yards, had that 1 drop, but it's not something that we should have to worry too much about with him. Quentin Ives, 2 catches for 36 yards. And we had Cortez Mills coming out with 3 catches for 98 yards. Great to see him out there and kind of running some of those deep routes, kind of getting to showcase some of his ability. Isaiah Hunter, pretty quiet, one reception for 16 yards. And Isaiah Mosley, three receptions for 26 yards. And that's the crazy part to me, is just the spread out of this. You didn't have a bunch of production from Isaiah Hunter. You didn't have huge production from Ja'Cory Barney, but yet you go out there and you still drop 59 points. Kyle Kunanen, 1 field goal attempt, 24 yards. So 8 extra points coming out there and, doing his thing per usual. Punt return wise, Isaiah Mosley coming out with that 38-yarder, right? Thought he might break it there for a second. We're getting ever so close to breaking that punt return. But let's put it this way. I think the last time Nebraska had a 100-yard punt returner before Tommy Hill, mind you, Tommy Hill I think ended up ultimately with a little over 100 yards in 2023, if I'm not mistaken. Before that was DeMornay Pearson out. And to put in perspective, Isaiah Mosey, who was a freshman, just had one punt return for 38 yards. Like that's huge. Just put it into perspective. That is massive, because even against lower level competition, we weren't getting returns. That it didn't matter. Looking over the defense overall, so coming out with sacks, we had Marquez Watson-Trent getting in the backfield. Marquez Watson-Trent's been really, really good this year, man. Riley Van Poppel getting him for a sack. We had RVP jumping in there. So a couple sacks today. TFL-wise, Emmett Johnson had half a TFL, which is kind of funny to see. But looking over at the total tackle numbers, let me see here. Who was the leading tackler today on defense? So we had Marquez Watson-Trent with 3. Quentin Ives actually had 3. Dawson Merritt with a pretty good game. Wilson McGahee with a couple. Now Wilson McGahee, again, just kind of some struggles early on this season. So be interesting to see how that develops for him. But overall, just again, coverage was excellent. I think one of the biggest things that I saw from this offense early on is, we see a lot of these mesh concepts. And I think the biggest thing that I've noticed again over the last 2 weeks is the simplification of this offense. And we still haven't had to show very much. And I think that's another thing. We're going to get a recipe of what kind of complexities that we can add to this offense in the following week, couple weeks, especially coming up next against Michigan. We didn't have to blitz a ton today. We were able to get a lot of pressure with our 4-man front. So I think we're going to be able to bring a lot of blitzes to Michigan that maybe they're not expecting. So I'm excited to see kind of how the game plan rolls out. People ranked Clemson high before the start of the season. Well, yeah, they did the same thing last year too. And yeah, that's before the season, everybody ranked, it's overrated. That's what we're saying. They're overrated. They're overrated. That's what I've been trying to tell you. TJ 5 for 5. These QBs completion percentage just feels so new for us. I love it. Yeah, 100%. Matt ruled during halftime this week's games. I want to see you guys eat lightning and crap here. The funniest part too is I was actually kind of upset when we didn't score on that last drive when we have 59 points. So little upset about that. Now looking back through, let me pull up these numbers here for y'all. All right. So I'm going to go through real quick here. Sorry. Second. All right. So let's. Yeah, man. Try and pull up. All right. So let me pull up. I'm going to go through this Michigan breakdown here. All right, cool. So let's go through the box score here and kind of just give you an idea of what we're looking for when it comes to Michigan, their team, their players. So over the last couple of weeks, I talked to my buddy who's a Michigan reporter, works for the Voice College Football Michigan channel. Now, one of the biggest things that he talked about over the last week against Oklahoma that they struggle with, O-line, D-line, Bryce Underwood looked 18, and I think that was the gist of it. Play calling, right? So what do they do today, right? No Sharon Moore, so they come out today and they start with that zone run scheme. But again, they immediately off rip, they come out and start running the ball with Bryce Underwood. He comes out in that first drive, starts throwing a little bit, right? Starts throwing underneath, but then he comes out with a 16-yard run. And then they come down and then they're able to score with Justice Haynes. So there they get that run game going on the first drive, which then finally opens up, they come out with Justice Haynes. That finally opens up Bryce Underwood for the deep ball. So he was able to complete kind of in that second drive, comes out to Samaj Morgan for a touchdown. He ran the ball, and then he threw a 32-yard touchdown pass. So there's where they're kind of that first little drive, they come out there, they're throwing. They send a little bit of that run game in there with Bryce Underwood towards the end of that first drive. And then coming out with that second drive, they pick up right where they left off. They start with a run. They go with a pass, and then Bryce Underwood was able to scramble, and then now they got Central Michigan on their heels from then on out. From there on out, you got Bryce Underwood was automatic from there. Let's see, coming out of that second quarter, I think the second quarter, Was it the second quarter was their big one? Yeah, so coming out the second and third quarter. So you come out here, they come out with a touchdown. Justin Hayes runs the ball. Now, one of the biggest things is Bryce Underwood ran a lot late. 11-yard run, a 16-yard pass, incompletion, 10-yard pass, 5-yard run, 9-yard run, 17-yard run, and then a touchdown pass. So again, just kind of a mixing it up, mixed bag of what they're doing in comparison to normal. So it'll be interesting to break down the Michigan film this week and just kind of see what they're using. But Bryce Underwood looked like he was a little bit more confident going through his progressions. And I think that was because they gave him a little bit more of that freedom and that element of the run. I just think with that ability with him to kind of be able to just kind of create and do what his thing, I think what their biggest thing was is they gave him a little bit more of an opportunity to just go out there and create. And I think that's what we're going to see next week. Now, one of the biggest things that we know is we have a defense and a secondary that is very experienced going against a young quarterback. And that's where I think we'll have the advantage. To my last comment, freaking Gramstead was 3 for 3. Off topic, we didn't see Mekhi Nelson today at all. Was there an injury that I missed? Not that I'm aware of. I can reach out to Rashawn and maybe see if he's banged up at all. But I was curious about that too because, I love to see Quentin Ives getting in there. Y'all know Quentin Ives is my guy all too well. But really curious to see, what's going on with Mekhi and why he didn't get more snaps today. Because again, we heard a lot of great stuff about him coming out through this offseason. But I mean, it's really we want to see him out there in games like this, so that way he gets an opportunity to get out there in the bigger games. But really nothing that I had seen on any injury reports or anything like that. So I'd be curious to kind of follow up on that. Let me dive through some of the games today real quick, and then we'll go into that. One other thing that I want to point out too, I don't know if, the offensive line being is what it is, Elijah Pritchett's good. And I think that's something that we're going to have to realize that we're going to be good when Elijah Pritchett's on the field. And so these mental lapses and stuff like that, I don't think it's going to be one of those things where we're going to treat it as if it were the stuff that went on last year with Micah Mazuka was a little bit more than just mental lapses on the field. There was behind the scenes stuff that led to that. So I see a lot of people who have been making the comparison throughout, a couple people, because we paid Mazuka big money to come, and then we paid him big money to come. Now, we pay both those guys big money to come, but again, if the issues were behind the scenes with one guy with the coaching staff, the issues are kind of on the field with another guy. So those two situations aren't going to be the same. It's not going to be one of those things where Elijah Pritchett is going to be shoved to the side and just not see the field, because we need him on the field. And so that left side is going to be interesting to watch and just see. Coach Rule said he was the one that kept Mekhi Nelson out of that. Did he say why he was the one that kept Mekhi out of the game? Yeah, did he say why? Or was there any other indication as to why? Currently, right now, by the way, Tennessee's up 7-0 on Georgia. Shout out Nico Iamaleava. For those that haven't seen, so you had Nico Iamaleava, who we also have the spat this year with the Tennessee and kind of off, trying to get more money. And then UCLA comes out and loses to New Mexico, I think it was last night. And then Tennessee's up 7-0 on Georgia right now as we speak. Going through some of the other scores right now. Let's just look through it. Missouri's up 52-10 on Louisiana. Let's try to see. Penn State's playing Villanova right now, so basketball school. So 7-0, Penn State's up. Let's see. Any other good ones? Miami, South Florida. Ohio State's playing Ohio, Illinois, Western Michigan. That's one of the things, too, is like you got Notre Dame versus Texas A&M, which is going to be a good one. Vandy versus South Carolina. Big Ten-wise, Oregon comes out and beats Northwestern 34-14. I think one of the biggest things that confuses me is Oregon has looked one of the best teams in college football this year so far. Ranked number 4, Ohio State to me should be number 1. I think Oregon's right now should be the second best team in college football in terms of how they played. Northwestern scored 14 points late on them. It's 34-0. Dante Moore threw his first interception, I believe, of the season. Clemson, Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech comes up, beats Clemson 24-21. Oklahoma beats Temple 42-3. Alabama comes out 38-14, blows out Wisconsin, and then Michigan 63-3. So there's your top 25. Indiana beats Indiana State 73-0. So didn't say why. He just wanted to keep him out. That's what I got from the postgame presser. Got it. Interesting. Rub it in on Nico. Man, it's too easy. He brought it on himself. Probably not a thing. He must be. Everybody was waiting for that one Nico Iamaleava moment. They were waiting for that one guy who was going to overstep or over leverage, and it wasn't going to work out for him. And he happened to be the scapegoat for that. Let's see. Well, he never implied that he was banged up. Yeah. So, yeah. I figured if he was banged up, he probably would have mentioned that. So I'm curious to know. I'm going to reach out and maybe I don't feel sorry for him one bit. No, not at all. Looking at the rest of the Big Ten, I just want to go through the Big Ten real quick and see if I can find what other games we got going on today. So Villanova, Penn State, USC's taking on Purdue. That game's in a delay. Norfolk State versus Rutgers, Youngstown State versus Michigan State. Interesting there. Michigan State is a team to kind of keep an eye on because we do have them on our schedule. And I talked about Michigan State a little bit in the preseason about Aiden Childs, because Aiden Childs does have the ability, man. He can be an electric quarterback. Aiden Childs, he's athletic, not very consistent when it comes to throwing the ball, but he can make some plays. But Michigan State is a very, very sneaky good team. But the biggest thing I think about Michigan State that we need to pay attention to is their physicality. Michigan State has a broader level of physicality than I expect this year from them. And I think that's what's gotten them to 2-0 right now. They're down 3-0 to Youngstown State, albeit very early in the game. So we'll see. Michigan State's going to be one of those teams that I think they can flash at times, but they're going to be very, very bad at times. They remind me of Maryland in 2023. Maryland came out, 5-0 or whatever, ended up somehow getting ranked in the top 10, so on and so forth. And then they ended up dropping however many X amount of games after that. But that was a team that was very, very explosive, and they had potential to be explosive. So they were able to win some games based on just that explosiveness purely. However, Michigan State's going to be like that, but it's not going to be consistent at all. No doubt. Illinois is facing Western Michigan. Iowa will be facing Massachusetts. Minnesota faces Cal. Minnesota, again, they're a team that's scoring a lot of points right now. They're favored by 2.5 against Cal, which makes me believe that probably Nebraska is going to be favored against Minnesota, because I think Nebraska is definitely favored over Cal in a neutral field. But in Minnesota, that game's going to be tough. Again, Minnesota, very physical team, and now they get a quarterback that can kind of throw the ball around the field a little bit. Looking at the rest of them, though, I kind of went through the scores. And speaking of Neo Iamaleava, just looking at his numbers here, 22 for 34, 217 yards, 6.4 average, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, a 25.8 QBR. Now, just put in perspective what a QBR is. It factors everything in. It factors not only the amount of it's kind of situational based too. So it's like, let's say 2nd and 8, you run for 6 yards. You're not going to get as good of a grade as if you run for 6 yards on a 3rd and 4, right? So it's situational grading, which at 25.8, that puts Nico at his QBR at 50.7 for the season, is 75th in the country. 28 might be the lowest rating of the week. That's how bad he's been. 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 608 yards. Just wanted to, because UCLA, again, was a team that we got coming up. That was one of those teams that I thought might be sneaky because of Nico. Thought they might be sneaky. I thought Deshaun Foster, last year, for what Deshaun Foster lacked, he is a guy that can push physicality, right? He's a player's coach. He's not much of a talker. He's just not ready to be a head coach. But I thought they could be physical enough to maybe cause some problems, because you can be a physical team and that can win you games. And then you have the talent of a guy like Nico. But again, you got Mikey Matthews. Some of the receivers, they have some decent talented receivers, but that team is just absolutely atrocious. So if we're looking at Nebraska's kind of schedule through, and let's just take it before we get into Big Ten play, let's look at the schedule and just kind of we kind of run through it, just kind of see where we're at with how we're feeling about the teams in the future. So Michigan versus Nebraska. Again, that game is going to be so tough to predict. That game, the spread, I stay as far away from that spread as you possibly can. But let's go ahead and put that game as a slight, let's say 50-50, 55-45 Nebraska. Michigan State, Nebraska should be favored. Maryland should be favored. Minnesota, Nebraska should be favored. But again, tough game. So there's the two tough games. Northwestern show to win that. USC is looking good. USC is a very dangerous team. That game scares me. UCLA should be a win. Penn State, and then we have Iowa. So Iowa, UCLA, Northwestern, and Maryland, to me, are kind of looking like either more of a win than I expected or kind of around the same. When looking at your teams like your USC's, Penn State, I feel about the same. USC, a little stronger than I anticipated they would be. They come out a little hotter than I thought they would be. And then Minnesota, again, just a sneaky offense. Now they got a quarterback that can pass the ball, and that is a team that doesn't beat themselves a lot. Very physical, but Iowa, on the other hand, not a very good football team. I don't have empathy, or I have empathy for the head coach Foster. You say his recruiting problems. Not only that, they have a lot of problems. And I think Foster's wasn't, I mean, he wasn't ready for a head coaching spot at a Power 5 level. He went straight from a position coach to a head coach at a Power 5 level, and that's just a tough situation to be in. Our schedule kind of reminds me of the old Legends division schedules. Oh, let's not bring up the Legends leaders, please. The M's and the N's in Iowa. Yeah, exactly. No, it does kind of line up that way. So, all right. Well, Brian didn't join me here, guys. So I guess we're not going to have to, be able to celebrate this with him. But for everybody tuning in, thank you. There's a lot of good games going on. So I'm going to let y'all get to the rest of the games. I'm probably going to put out a little recap video here either today or tomorrow. And I'm going to dive into a couple of the clips from the Michigan game, a couple of things from the Michigan game. I'm going to try to just kind of bring that in, give it a little bit of a preview, a little bit of a recap, kind of mix everything in. Try to bring Michael Rose-Ivy on with him. I'm going to give him some of the All-22 footage, see if he can break down what he saw from this game, try to get us prepped up for that Michigan game. So might try to bring him on Tuesday. So if y'all want to see if y'all want to see him come on Tuesday, go ahead and let me know, and then we'll bring him on. And I might try to see if I can get him on weekly to kind of do some film breakdowns as well. Just to kind of hop on here with me. We can break down some film for y'all weekly on everything, get y'all prepped up for the next week. So, but with that being said, we got Canelo Crawford tonight. Shout out Canelo. No, I'm just kidding. I picked Canelo, but I guess I gotta pull for Bud. Is that the rule? Is that the rule here, guys? Since I'm a Nebraska fan, I gotta pull for Bud. Is that as a boxing fan and a Nebraska fan, I'm trying to figure out how to marry the two. But y'all stay. That's going to be on tonight. So Bud Crawford fighting Canelo tonight. I have a bad feeling that Canelo might be a little bit too big and strong and powerful and hit a little too hard for Bud. But we'll see. I am not going to be upset either way. So y'all have fun watching that tonight, man. Y'all have fun watching the games the rest of the day. And with that being said, I will see y'all in the next video. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Peace.